I was in my third semester when I took the job. It sounded simple enough, just a few hours as a night monitor in the old history hall, the building with crumbling red bricks and ivy-covered windows no one seemed to care about. During the day, it was barely used. At night, it felt forgotten by the world. My job was to walk the corridors every hour, make sure no students had snuck in to sleep or make out, check the lights, and report any issues. Easy. The pay was low, but so were my standards. I always carried a thermos of bitter coffee, a flashlight that flickered at the worst times, and my headphones, until the night I stopped using them for good. That particular evening was cold, dry, the kind of weather that makes old buildings creak and whisper. I was alone on the third floor, where the lights hummed louder than usual, and the air felt strangely still. Everything was fine until I passed that door. The door was old, so old the paint had peeled off in long, curling strips, revealing layers beneath like tree rings. It was always locked. Every student knew about room 36, but no one had ever seen the inside. Rumors said it used to be a storage room for preserved specimens, or maybe a small office sealed off after a gas leak. Others claimed it had been shut after a student disappeared. I never believed any of it. Until that night. I was walking past it, my steps echoing down the narrow hall, when I heard it, soft at first, almost like air moving through pipes. But then it sharpened. It was crying, soft, shivering sobs, like someone trying not to be heard, but failing. I froze. The door was still shut. The knob hadn't turned. But I swear to you, the sound was coming from inside. I leaned in, pressing my ear to the wood, and felt something cold, wet almost, on the surface. I took a step back. My mind tried to come up with explanations. An animal? A student playing a prank? Maybe sound from outside? But the window at the end of the hall was shut, and the crying, it grew louder. There was no rhythm, no clear voice, just sadness, pure and raw, pouring out like it had been trapped there for years. I raised my flashlight and aimed it at the tiny crack beneath the door. Nothing, just darkness. I should have walked away. I knew that. Every instinct screamed it. But I reached out anyway and tried the knob, cold, unmoving, locked as always. Then the crying stopped, instantly, like someone had hit a switch. The silence that followed was worse. My ears rang with it. I stood there, frozen, unsure of what to do next. And then the knob turned. Not fully, just a twitch, as if someone on the other side was testing it. Slowly, cautiously. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I backed away, nearly tripping over my own feet, and left the hall without looking back. The next day, I reported what I heard. The building manager laughed it off, told me the room had been sealed for years. No key, no access. But something didn't sit right. That night, I returned with a friend, a fellow monitor. We both stood by the door. Nothing, no sound, no movement, until he pointed at something I hadn't noticed the night before. Scratches. Long, jagged marks near the bottom of the door, like nails or fingers, had clawed at the wood, reaching for a way out. He turned pale. We left in silence. I never took another shift in that building again. And room 306? It's still locked. But sometimes late at night, when the wind dies down and the halls fall silent, people still hear the crying.
My university's library is massive, 3 floors above ground and 1 hidden beneath, buried like a forgotten thought. That underground level isn't open to undergrads. It's cold, damp, and the lighting always flickers like it's unsure if it should stay on. But for graduate students like me, it's perfect. No distractions, no noise, just endless aisles of books and the distant hum of fluorescent lights. I had a thesis deadline creeping up, so I started using that space every night. The third night down there is the one that changed everything. I remember walking past the front desk, flashing my student ID to the night librarian, an older man who barely spoke, and heading to my usual spot, row 12, seat 4. That section is isolated, and the air always feels thicker the farther in you go. I thought nothing of it at first, but I started noticing something strange. Every time I entered that row, I felt watched. It wasn't immediate, more like a slow build, like static creeping up your spine. It started on that third night. I was buried in research, notes spread everywhere, eyes heavy from too much coffee. At one point, I leaned back and stretched, glancing toward the far end of the aisle, and that's when I saw it. The last chair of the row, seat 12, wasn't empty. There was someone sitting there. At least that's what it looked like. A shape, pitch black against the pale glow of the overhead light. Perfectly still. I blinked, adjusted my glasses, looked again. The shape was gone. I told myself it was my imagination, a trick of light, the fatigue. But from that moment on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was in there with me. The next night, I arrived earlier, trying to shake off the unease. I brought a small mirror with me, something silly I picked up from an online forum, a kind of reverse paranoia check. I placed it at the corner of my table to catch anything behind me while I worked. Hours passed, quiet, still, until I glanced at the mirror. The last chair in the row, reflected in perfect clarity, wasn't empty. My hands froze over my keyboard. I turned around slowly, empty, looked back at the mirror, occupied. My throat tightened. The figure in the mirror didn't move. It didn't fidget, didn't breathe. It just sat there, black and still, like a hole punched into the world. I packed my things fast and left. But as I walked away, I swear I heard the sound of a chair sliding behind me, as if someone had just stood up. I reported it, of course, told the night staff. They looked at me with that tired expression people give when they've heard it before, but don't want to admit it. One of them, a woman, pulled me aside quietly and said, "You saw it too, didn't you?" She didn't say what it was, just that the last chair in row 12 had been part of a student project long ago. Someone had passed away during finals, sitting right there, alone, overworked, and never found until days later. Since then, people said the chair was never really empty. I haven't gone back since, but I still get emails from friends who study late at night down there. Some say the light above row 12 flickers more than usual. Others mention the sound of a chair dragging against the floor. And one even sent me a blurry photo once. There at the far end, seat 12, was a shadow that didn't match any known shape, just sitting, waiting.
It was the end of the semester, the kind of week where time collapses into a blur of caffeine, unfinished assignments, and sleepless nights. I had just pulled an all-nighter working on a group project in one of the upper labs of Building D, the oldest and most avoided wing on campus. Everyone had stories about that place. Doors that creaked open on their own. Lights that flickered only when you were alone. Weird noises in the stairwells. But I never paid attention. I was a science student, rational, logical, grounded, or at least I thought I was, until that night. It was around 3 a.m. when I finally left, dragging my feet toward the elevator on the 7th floor, too tired to take the stairs. I pressed the call button, stepped in when the doors opened, and hit G for ground. The elevator hummed to life, the fluorescent light above buzzing like an angry insect. I leaned back against the wall, staring blankly at the floor numbers ticking down. 7, 6, 5, it stopped. The doors opened with that slow, mechanical groan. I didn't move. No one got in. The hallway was dark, except for a single flickering light near the corner. I waited. Still, no one came. But the doors didn't close. I tapped the close button. Nothing. The system had frozen. I leaned forward to peek out, just enough to see if maybe someone was approaching. That's when I saw them. A pair of feet, bare, pale, dirty, standing just beyond the edge of the light, pointed directly at me. They weren't moving, just there. The legs didn't shift, no sound of breathing. I looked up, expecting to see a face or at least a silhouette, but there was nothing. No body, no head, just the feet. I stumbled backward, heart racing, hitting the elevator wall hard. My hand mashed every floor button in blind panic. The doors finally started to close, slowly, painfully slowly. And just before they met in the center, the toes of those feet twitched, as if taking a step forward. I didn't wait for more. The elevator descended, and when the doors opened again on the ground floor, I sprinted out into the night air, lungs burning, eyes wide. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I was outside, standing under the blue wash of a campus security light. I tried telling a staff member the next day. He just nodded, eyes tired. "5th floor?" he asked. I said yes. He sighed and said, "You're not the first." Later, I learned that the 5th floor had once been a dorm extension, years ago. A fire broke out in one of the rooms. Someone got trapped inside. They say he was trying to escape barefoot, running from room to room, but the doors wouldn't open. When they finally put out the fire, all they found were soot prints, burned into the floor, right outside the elevator. No one knows why the elevator still stops there. No one asks. They just take the stairs.